हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू एजुकेशन एटर्निटी। आज का चैप्टर है रिप्रोडक्शन इन प्लांट्स। सो व्हाट इज रिप्रोडक्शन? द प्रोसेस बाय विच लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स प्रोड्यूस इट्स ऑफस्प्रिंग्स इज नोन एज रिप्रोडक्शन। नाउ ऑल एनिमल्स एंड प्लांट्स रिप्रोड्यूस एंड देयर आर डिफरेंट मोड्स ऑफ for reproduction. There are two basically, asexual and sexual. Now asexual, when a single parent is involved in the process, it is known as asexual reproduction. सबसे पहला vegetative propagation. When a new plant is developed by a non-reproductive or a vegetative part such as root, stem or leaf, it is known as vegetative propagation. For example, when a tuber of a potato is cut into several pieces and each bears an eye, each piece produces a new plant. Thus stem of money plant, rose, mango, etc. can produce new plants when they are inserted in the soil. The second is budding. In this method is used by unicellular plants such as yeast. Yeast is a fungus and fungi are also known as non-green plants. The yeast cell produces a bud which gets its own nucleus. The bud develops to certain size and detaches from the mother cell to produce new yeast. Third is fragmentation. In some simple plants, the plant body is divided into smaller fragments. Each fragment then develop into a new plant. For example, spirogyra. Next is spore formation. Special spore bearing organs such are present in some plants, especially in fungi and algae. These are known as sporangiophores, and these sporangiophores bear spores. The spores germinate to develop a new plant. Now sexual reproduction. When male and female reproductive parts are involved in reproduction, it is known as sexual reproduction. Two gametes, namely male and female gametes, are formed. The fusion of male and female gametes is known as fertilization. What is fertilization? The fusion of male and female gamete is known as fertilization. A zygote is formed after fertilization. The zygote develops into embryo and finally into a new individual. Flower is a special organ of flowering plants which works as the reproductive system. The outermost hole is known as the calyx and it is composed of green leaves, and this is also known as sepals. The second hole is the corolla. It is composed of colorful structure which are known as the petals. The third is the androecium. The third hole is androecium, and androecium is also known as the male gamete. The fourth is gynoecium. The fourth hole is gynoecium and it is the ovary and it is your female gamete. Now, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma is known as pollination, and basically there are two types of pollination. One is self and other is cross. So, when the anther of the same flower are transferred to the stigma of the same flower, it is known as self-pollination. Autogamy occurs within individual flower without the help of an agent. And what is geotenogamy? Geotenogamy occurs between the anther of one flower and the stigma of another stigma of another, but it is on the same plant. This may require the help of pollinating agent. Now next is when the anther from different flower are transferred to stigma of another, it is known as a cross pollination. अब यहाँ पे आप कंफ्यूज ना हो, जब एक ही उसमें हो रहा है तो ये सेल्फ पॉलिनेशन है. ऑटोगैमी में कोई एजेंट की ज़रूरत नहीं होती, इसलिए उसको ऑटोगैमी कहते हैं. और जियोटेनोगैमी में ये होता है कि है सेम पेड़, लेकिन मान लीजिए एक ऊपर एक नीचे, या एक लेफ्ट में है ऊपर और एक राइट में है नीचे, तो उसमें कोई आपको एजेंट चाहिए जैसे विंड या वाटर कुछ चाहिए, तो वहाँ पर जियोटेनोगैमी होता है. और क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन में स्टिग्मा एक पेड़ का होगा, मतलब मेल एक पेड़ का होगा, फीमेल अलग पेड़ की होगी, तब उसे क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन कहते हैं. Now fertilization. The fusion of male and female gamete is known as fertilization. When a pollen settles on the top of a stigma, it germinates to produce a pollen tube. The pollen tube enters the ovary through the style. Male nuclei is transferred to the ovary through the pollen tube. The cell formed just after fertilization is known as the zygote. The zygote develops into embryo. Each embryo develops into a seed. The seed is an embryo which enclosed in a protective coat. The ovary gets transformed into the fruit. Now what is fruit? Now fruit and seed formation. Fertilized egg or zygote divides into several times to form an embryo within the ovule. The ovule develops a tough coat around it and is gradually converted into a seed. In fact, all eggs in the ovules present in the ovary of a flower gets fertilized by the male gametes from the pollen grain and grow to become seeds. The ovary of flower develops and become a fruit. The other parts of the flower, such as the sepals, petals, stamens, stigma, style, dry up and fall off. Only the ovary is left behind. So at the place on a plant where we had flower originally, now we have a fruit. A fruit protects the seed. Some fruits are soft, sweet, juicy like mango, orange, but some fruits are hard, dry and woody such as peanuts and almond. Now seed. A seed is a reproductive unit of plant and it can be used to grow a new plant. The seed contains a baby plant or the embryo and the food for the baby plant. The part of the baby plant in which seeds develop into shoot with the leaves is known as the plumule, and the part which develops into the root is known as radicle. The part of seed which contains stored food for the baby plant is known as the cotyledon. Now seed dispersal. If all the seeds were to germinate near the mother plant, the new plant shall not get adequate resources such as sunlight, air and nutrients. For proper growth and new plants, it is necessary that they develop away from the mother plant. For this, it is necessary that the seed are spread far and wide. The process of spreading of seed to different places is known as dispersal of seed, and it is basically done by many means. First is dispersal by wind. Seeds of some plants are lightweight and some are hair-like or wing structures and are present on them. Such seeds float on air and thus disperse by wind. For example, dandelion. Dispersal by water. Dispersal by water takes place in some aquatic plants and in which grows near the water body. इसका example आपका है coconut. Dispersal by animals. Some seeds have spine-like structures on them. They get stuck to the fur of animals and thus they move to different places. For example, Urena, Bigartic. Dispersal by bursting. Some fruits burst open when they mature. Their force of bursting is enough to spread the seed. For example, ladyfinger. Dispersal by humans. Humans also help in dispersal, especially during the farming. So that's it, students. Your chapter is over. Hope you liked this video. Please like, subscribe and thank you so much.